For nearly 20 years, Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban were the couple that made people believe in forever. Two stars from different worlds, one built on film sets and scripts, the other on guitars and smoky stages, yet somehow they met in the middle. For years they seemed untouchable. The red carpet smiles, the heartfelt speeches, the quiet moments caught by cameras, all of it painted a picture of devotion that looked unbreakable. But even the most perfect picture can begin to fade. And sometimes the cracks start long before anyone notices. It began quietly. A change in tone, a shift in energy. Keith's concerts, once bright and playful, began to feel heavier. His voice sounded different. Not weaker, but full of something deeper. Something sad. Fans could feel it. The joy was still there, but behind it there was distance. A kind of ache that couldn't quite be hidden. Nicole, too, began to move differently through the world. Still radiant, still graceful, but quieter. Her interviews grew shorter, her answers more thoughtful, and the smiles, though beautiful as ever, didn't quite reach her eyes. So when the news broke that Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban were separating, the world froze for a moment. Not because it was shocking, but because it felt inevitable. The announcement came without noise or drama. A short statement. Simple, polite, and final. Words like respect, gratitude, privacy. No anger, no blame, just silence. And in Hollywood, silence often says more than any headline ever could. Within hours, the world reacted. Fans flooded social media with heartbreak and disbelief. Entertainment outlets rushed to fill the silence with theories, timelines, and speculation. But behind the scenes, something deeper was happening. A story that would turn from sadness into mystery. Because not long after the news of their separation, Keith Urban did something unexpected. He sang. One night, during a live performance, he introduced a new song, one no one had ever heard before. The lights dimmed. The crowd went quiet. And then came the words, softly at first, but with an emotion that pulled the air out of the room. The song was called For Maggie, a simple title, a simple name, but it would change everything. At first, fans didn't think much of it. Keith often wrote new material, often told stories through songs that blurred truth and art. But this time felt different. The way he sang, the way he looked off stage, the tremor in his voice made it impossible to ignore. And that one name, Maggie, was enough to light a fire. Because Maggie Ball wasn't just anyone. She was a 25-year-old guitarist and fiddle player who had recently joined Keith's touring band. Talented, confident, magnetic. Fans had already noticed the chemistry between them on stage, the shared smiles, the easy laughter. Nothing inappropriate, just visible connection. But now, with a song titled For Maggie coming only weeks after his separation from Nicole Kidman, people began to wonder, was this song about his bandmate? Or was it about something or someone else? Clips from that night spread across the internet within hours. TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, every platform filled with slowed-down videos, zoomed-in expressions, and endless comment threads. Some said the song was a love letter to a new muse. Others said it was a farewell to Nicole, a coded goodbye wrapped in melody. One fan wrote, "He's not singing to Maggie. He's singing through her." Another replied, "He's letting go, and we're hearing it happen." Soon, the name Maggie became a headline of its own. And when People magazine confirmed that Keith had changed lyrics in one of his older love songs, a song once believed to be written for Nicole, to include Maggie's name, the conversation turned into obsession. Theories multiplied. Was For Maggie an innocent collaboration, a secret dedication, or a mirror of heartbreak reflecting something much more personal? Through it all, Keith Urban remained silent. No interviews, no explanations, just music. And that silence only made people listen harder. Meanwhile, Nicole Kidman, the woman the world had loved watching by his side, handled it differently. She didn't deny. She didn't defend. She simply moved with her usual grace, as if the noise around her didn't exist. At public events, she smiled, soft, elegant, untouchable. But her eyes told a quieter story, a story of reflection, of someone who had already found peace in knowing that not every answer needs to be spoken aloud. And then came the moment. A red carpet appearance, flashbulbs flickering, Nicole in a gold gown, classic, timeless, but the detail that everyone noticed wasn't her dress. It was her hand. Her left ring finger was bare, her wedding ring gone. In its place, on the other hand, a small gold band. Simple, deliberate. No words were said, no captions posted, but fans understood immediately. That single image was louder than any interview could ever be. A quiet message, delivered with the calm confidence of someone who no longer needed to explain herself. Online, the theories only grew louder. Some said she was sending a message of closure. Others believed she was reminding the world that strength doesn't always come with a statement. Sometimes it comes with silence. And then, during a press junket, a journalist asked her how she was managing such public change. Nicole smiled faintly and said, "Sometimes silence is the only truth you need." 16 words. That was all it took. That quote swept through every entertainment site and fan page within hours. Because even without naming him, everyone knew who she was talking about. It wasn't bitterness. It wasn't heartbreak. It was acceptance, the kind that takes years to find. And perhaps that's what made this story so haunting. Because beneath the headlines, beneath the speculation and the gossip, what the world was really watching wasn't a scandal. It was a slow, painful, human ending. Two people who had once built a world together were now standing on opposite sides of it, learning how to exist without each other. Keith expressed it the only way he knew how, through song. Nicole expressed it the only way she could, through silence. Different languages, same emotion. And maybe that's why the world couldn't look away. Because we weren't just hearing music or seeing headlines, we were watching something far rarer. We were watching love quietly unravel, with dignity. Every lyric he sang, every appearance she made, every glance, every pause. Together, they told a story. A love story that began in light and ended in shadows. But if there's one thing Hollywood has taught us, it's this. The end of one act is never the end of the story. And for Keith Urban and Nicole Kidman, the song was only the beginning. Because what happened next left even longtime fans speechless. The night after Keith Urban performed for Maggie, something shifted. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, like a storm forming far away. But those who'd followed his career long enough could feel it. Something about that song? It wasn't just another melody. It was a message. In the days that followed, clips of his performance spread everywhere. Millions of views, thousands of comments, everyone searching for hidden meaning. Some swore the lyrics sounded like an apology. Others thought it was a confession. And a few believed it was a final love letter, not to Maggie, but to Nicole. The song began simply, one guitar, one voice. No band, no spotlight tricks. Just Keith, raw and unfiltered. He sang about distance, about time, about loving someone enough to let them go. His voice trembled on certain lines, and at one point he stopped, looked down, and smiled. Not with joy, but with the kind of sadness that comes from knowing the truth too late. After that performance, his team didn't post the usual clips or behind-the-scenes photos. The official tour account went silent. No captions, no statements, but fans did the work for them. They dissected every word, every chord. They slowed the video down frame by frame, and soon the theories turned into stories. Stories that spread faster than any press release ever could. The most popular one was simple. For Maggie, wasn't about Maggie at all. It was about letting go of Nicole. That the name wasn't literal, but symbolic. A stand-in for what he'd lost, what he could never say out loud. But then came something no one expected. Maggie herself posted on Instagram. A short caption under a backstage photo, "It's an honor to play music that means something." Thank you, Keith, that was all. No drama, no hints, but the internet didn't need much. Within hours, her post had over 500,000 likes, and every comment was the same. "Are you the Maggie? Was the song about you? What's going on between you two?" She didn't reply. She didn't delete the post either. That silence spoke volumes. Meanwhile, Keith disappeared for a while. No interviews. No paparazzi sightings. His social media account stayed dark for weeks. Then, out of nowhere, he posted a single photo, an old Polaroid of him sitting in a studio surrounded by instruments. The caption simply read, "Starting again." That two-word post reignited everything. What was he starting? A new album? A new chapter? Or something more personal? Around that time, Nicole was photographed leaving a film set in Paris. The pictures went viral, not because of what she was wearing, but because of what she wasn't hiding anymore. She looked free, not joyful, not broken, just at peace. The kind of peace that comes when the hardest part is already over. When a reporter asked her later about Keith's new song, she paused for a long time before saying, "Sometimes art says what words can't." That single line became the headline of the week. People began drawing parallels. His song, her quote, their silences echoing each other like two verses of the same song. They weren't talking directly, but through the art they left behind. And for many fans, that made their story even more heartbreaking. By the time Keith returned to the stage months later, something in him had changed. He looked older, not in a tired way, but in a lived way. When he spoke to the crowd, he said, "This one's for anyone who's ever had to say goodbye," and meant it. Then he played For Maggie. But this time, it sounded different, softer, slower, almost like a memory fading in real time. The audience didn't sing along, they just listened. No one moved, no one filmed. It was one of those rare moments in music when silence meant more than applause. When the song ended, he didn't say a word. He just set his guitar down and walked off stage. Back in Hollywood, Nicole was preparing for the release of a new film, a quiet drama about love, loss, and forgiveness. During the press tour, someone asked her what love meant to her now. She smiled gently and said, "Love doesn't always end. Sometimes it just changes shape." That line, paired with Keith's silence, felt like the final page of a story they'd been writing together for years. Because maybe that's what this whole journey was. Not a breakup, not a betrayal, but a transformation. The end of one love and the quiet birth of another. The kind built on memory, gratitude, and the grace to move on without resentment. By the time award season came around, Nicole and Keith both attended the same event, their first public appearance in the same room since the separation. Cameras flashed as they crossed paths. He nodded, she smiled. For a split second, their eyes met. No tension, no anger, just a quiet acknowledgement. Two people who had once shared everything, now sharing one final understanding. It's okay to let go. And maybe that's what, for Maggie, was really about all along. Not about another person. Not about guilt or secrets, but about acceptance, about turning pain into art, about learning that even when love ends, the respect can stay. Because in the end, Keith Urban didn't write a breakup song. He wrote a goodbye letter, not to Nicole, not to Maggie, but to the version of himself that loved and lost and learned. And Nicole Kidman, in her silence, answered him the only way she knew how, by living beautifully, quietly, and without regret. Love stories don't always need happy endings. Sometimes the most powerful ones end in peace. And as the curtain closed on theirs, the world finally understood. This wasn't the fall of a marriage. It was the rise of two souls, finally learning how to stand on their own. Months passed. The noise faded, the headlines shifted, and the world moved on, or at least, it tried to. But for those who had followed Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban's story from the beginning, something still lingered. A feeling that their story wasn't over. Not yet. Keith stayed mostly out of sight. He spent his days in the studio, surrounded by quiet. No interviews, no press tours, just music. Rumor had it he was working on something personal, something that felt more like a diary than an album. His friends described him as focused but softer. He wasn't chasing hits anymore. He was chasing meaning. Then, without warning, he released a new record. No promotion, no announcement, just a midnight upload titled Echoes. 10 songs. No features. No explanations. From the first track, fans knew this wasn't the same Keith Urban they'd known. The sound was stripped down, more raw, more fragile. The lyrics were reflective, almost haunting. Each song sounded like a letter he never sent. One track stood out immediately. It was called The Quiet Kind. And within minutes of release, listeners began connecting the dots. The song described a woman who spoke in glances and healed with silence. The kind of woman who didn't need to say a word to be understood. Everyone knew who that was about. The chorus repeated the same line 3 times. She never said goodbye, she just stopped saying hello. It wasn't bitter, it wasn't angry. It was acceptance, pure and painful. The song spread like wildfire. Critics called it his most emotional work in years. Fans cried, reposted, analyzed every lyric. But more than that, they felt it. For the first time, it seemed like Keith wasn't singing about heartbreak anymore. He was singing about closure. And somewhere across the ocean, Nicole Kidman heard it too. A week later, during a quiet red carpet interview in London, a journalist asked her if she'd listened to The Quiet Kind. She smiled faintly, eyes lowering for a second before saying, "I think sometimes music finishes conversations that words never could." It was the only time she ever acknowledged the album. But for those who'd been paying attention, that one sentence was enough. It was her reply, graceful, understated, final. In the months that followed, Keith began touring again. Smaller venues this time, more intimate, more honest. Gone were the lasers, the big stages, the fireworks. In their place were wooden stools, soft lights, and quiet audiences. He played songs from Echoes, and when he got to the quiet kind, he always paused before starting. He'd close his eyes, strum the first chord, and say, "For those who taught me that silence can be its own kind of love." Each time the crowd went still. Somewhere in that stillness, the story of Keith and Nicole finally found peace. Not in grand statements or confessions, but in the understanding that not every love story is meant to last forever. Some are meant to teach, to shape, to heal. Nicole, meanwhile, continued her work quietly. Her new films took on a more introspective tone, stories about forgiveness, loss, and the beauty of letting go. In interviews, she began speaking more about balance, faith, and the lessons that come from endings. When one reporter asked her if she believed in soulmates, she paused and said softly, "I believe we meet the right people at the right time. And sometimes, that's enough." That quote spread across social media like poetry, because it wasn't sadness she was expressing, it was wisdom. By the time awards season arrived, Echoes had become one of Keith's most acclaimed works. Critics called it a career reset. Fans called it his truth. During one of his acceptance speeches, he said something that made headlines again. Looking into the audience, he smiled and said, "To the person who taught me that silence doesn't mean goodbye, thank you." He didn't say her name. He didn't need to. Nicole, sitting a few rows away, clapped gently, her eyes soft, her expression unreadable. But in that moment, brief, delicate, almost cinematic, it felt like the final curtain. No anger, no regret. Just two people who had once shared a life, now sharing a kind of peace the world rarely sees. And maybe that's what made their story timeless. Not the fame, not the heartbreak, but the way they carried it. With dignity, with honesty, with silence that spoke louder than words ever could. Because real love doesn't always need to end with forever. Sometimes it ends with understanding. And in that understanding, Keith Urban and Nicole Kidman left behind something far more powerful than a marriage. They left behind a legacy of grace. Two souls who once walked the same path, now walking different roads, still carrying the same light. The kind of love that doesn't vanish when it ends. It just changes form. And maybe that's the most beautiful kind of love there is.